But what I would really love you to leave with today is that you connect to your heart and you have this topic a little bit closer to you, because I'm not sure how you are arriving into networking, but what I know is that for me, for a really long time, this has been a very tough subject, not only to speak in front of people, but to show up. And I will tell a little bit where it came from. And what we are going to do today is I would like to actually invite you to this, why you should listen to me, because I'm not the most successful entrepreneur in the world. So you are not hearing about me maybe yet from social media. You are here because I was given this amazing opportunity. And I would like to also walk you into this, like, why you should kind of like, listen to my story and the points. And then afterwards, what I would also like to hear from you is like, what is it that you take from you? So so then going back to Natalie. So one of the art forms I am practicing is called quilling. You can see it on the first row. It's a form of paper art. And I arrived actually from operations and supply chain management. So already when I was like in the middle of my 20s, I had a lot of background on businesses. But what happened is that I didn't feel that I want to do that path or that way. And there was a moment when I felt completely lost. And then what happened is one of my friends sent me this art form, and I just started to explore. And this exploration led me to a TEDx event where I could do the photo wall. I have an Etsy store, which actually I closed already, but my Udemy store is online. So I was exploring ways, how can I actually make sources of income out of things that I love to do. And this is this art form. And you can also see other pictures where all of these are the projects. And I would love to tell you about the background, how I get them. And some of them involve facilitation of, for example, and brainstorming. Some of them involve communities, some of them involve municipalities, companies, retreats. So it's kind of, I think maybe you can also relate to this, that sometimes it's very difficult for me to just say it in one sentence, what is it that I do? Because it's this mix of these three things. And also from the coaching sessions, which I have, which are usually about leadership development and career direction. Those are, for example, I couldn't take a picture too. But so before we go to what is networking, what is not, I would like to share you a couple of things, how I interpret networking as. Because I think often when we think of networking, we just think of a conference, right? Or you think of something which is outside of you. But let me share you some things with you. So I was making a list of the couple of the last projects which I have, and I have a lot actually, but just a couple of them. So, for example, in December, I met a colleague who is also a facilitator, but she lives abroad. And we had a really nice chat. We also had a connection. And then 2 months later, she called me and she was like, Judith, there is this Czech company who needs facilitators. Are you available? And I was, and I went to have a coffee with this company owner. And now we are working together, and we already had like 3 or 4 projects, which are smaller projects. 2 of them involve 2 trainings and 2 of them are coaching. And this is, I think, networking. I went to a conference. I don't know if you like conferences, which is actually called Nomad Cruise. It's a 2-week journey, and we were traveling from Barcelona to Brazil. And if you're as crazy about L&D and maybe learning experience development, maybe you also often find yourself having a lot of feedback, let's say, at events, or having a lot of ideas. And I realized that I was at that conference, and I was very critical in my mind, because I was constantly coming up with ideas. How is it that they should do small things differently? And what I did, by the end of the 2 weeks, I prepared a list of 5 most important points for the owner of the company in this conference. And I sent him a very nice message asking for a coffee, and just like, I just presented him with some ideas and possibilities for development. We had a coffee, and I was in the team for the next cruise. People love when you have good ideas, and people are constantly looking for inspiration, and a lot of people don't have time to, even if they have good ideas, to execute it themselves. They are always looking for people who bring in some creativity. Or I have a client with whom we are working together for 3 years, and guess where it came from? An old university classmate of mine. She was referring me to that person. We had an interview. We had, I mean, this is what we are talking about today. I'm not sure about your expertise, but I trust you. You can handle your expertise, and you can also grow in it. But once you do things in a good way and you feel like, okay, I can reach out, this is the next step, that you talk to people around about what is it that you do, and they will recommend you. So then I had an interview with her, and yeah, then we had 3 projects already since then. Or one time I wanted to learn something from a person. She's a host, and she was offering a graphic facilitation course. And I just had a coffee chat with her, and we just organized our 4th Art of Hosting training in Hungary last week. So I hope this gives you a little bit about like what is if networking could be interpreted in a little bit different way. And I'm also looking if I have any other examples. For example, also with this TEDx, the way I got it was I wanted to be a speaker. So, many of us arrive to these events, and like I'm so happy for people who are TEDx speakers, but I have never given a TEDx speech. I was actually twice applying, and I was rejected. But what happened after the first one, I was like, all right, you don't like my story, but what about if I don't speak my story, but I just show you it in a different way? And then I had again a meeting with them, and then I persuaded with them to create a photo wall, and I have never done anything like that. It was like 7 meters wide, and that was the first time when I have done it. But there it was. I could, monetize actually that thing what I really love to do. And I'm also looking, and another project which is also here, which is about a team retreat, is that I was coaching a person 3 years ago. And then 3 years later, she just called me like, Judith, are you still, doing these collective intelligence tools? And do you still have these conversations games and things like this? And I was like, yeah, of course. Why? And then she said like, well, we are organizing a team retreat. And she was the organizer. And then they had 2 weeks. So she was asking for help. And then we just very quickly went into creating it. And then we worked together also for the next year. So my story is going to be a story where I'm not going to tell you about how to do this online, okay? So also right now, I don't have a website. Crazy, no? Everybody's talking about how you need to be online. I'm not. I want to have a website, and I'm going to do it again, because I think in the past 10 years, there were like at least 10 ways how I introduce myself, but it was always something different, because when you start to be an external, I think this is very important. You are going to also see yourself evolve. Maybe you don't know yet what is it exactly that you want to do. You know that it's something about L&D, and maybe this is now the time you can also start to put it in the chat, like if you are already there, or if you want to explore what is the kind of service that you are curious to offer, because maybe I can also speak to that a bit. So, and maybe you don't know it exactly, but why would you know? First, you need to be on the market, and then you will also learn about what is the best form for you. Because maybe you will see that you like to work more online or offline, smaller groups, bigger groups, but this is the beginning. So the beginning is crucial, and it's going to be really tough. And I'm trying to do today everything to support you in like, taking this step to just starting and going to networking. So as I said, like a lot of times what I hear from people when I say networking is like, oh my God, yeah, but what is it? And how can I do it? And no, I'm not that type of networking person. Or hey, I'm not an extrovert. I don't know how to do it. Well, look, I'm an introvert. I cannot handle conversations which are which are not about a meaningful topic, or where I don't understand exactly what the other person means and just stays on a theoretical level because I want to see that person and I want to hear the personal stories. And it's not working for everybody in this way. So this is another way what I would like to show you uh, with all these misconceptions, because I think we have a lot of things about networking which are not true. So then what is the true nature? So if you know Dave Snowden and his work about systems, networking is a complex system. So as opposed to a simple system where you give a stimulus and where you know what is the answer going to be, networking is a complex system. That's why if you live with this one in mind, I'm already happy, because this will mean that you understand that you just need to act and try it out. It's constantly trial and error. And as much as I want to give you best practices, and I will give you some tools, but I cannot make sure, and you cannot make sure that these are the ones that will work for you. So in a complex system, it's really important to explore. Networking is continuous, and I hope you already know that you have a network. Many of us say in the beginning that, yeah, but I don't have the network to do this or that. That's actually not true. You have a network, and I will also inspire you in a bit to think about who is already in your network, because as I mentioned, even a university classmate could give you a connection. So you don't always need to go for something new. It's a long-term investment. It's not we often, so as how you were asking it, Sneha, so how when we go to ChatGPT to ask about networking is when we want to find a job, right? And then afterwards, when it's done, then it's like, okay, I don't need networking anymore. But it's not true. Also, if for a project, it's when you are external, it's going to be a little bit different, because you need to be your own sales department, marketing department, and the execution at the same time. So, and it takes some time to kind of like build up this system that you don't only go to networking and you don't only speak to your network when you need projects. I'm going to tell you a lot about how I made mistakes, and I think this was for me also a mistake that I had. There are so also. When we are entrepreneurs or freelancers or in any form you work is seasonal. Sometimes you will be full of your projects, but it's important that also then you go and you are tending your network. So it's a long-term investment, and also sometimes, the fruits are going to come when you don't even expect it to. It's intention-based. So it's important that, okay, it's not just I'm going to network and it's not only about how I'm being present in my circles without any intention. It is important what your intention is. For example, here it's also important at this point, it's when we talk about networking, do you want to learn more about other people? So maybe get to know your competitors, or you want to learn about the skill itself, what you are doing, or do you want to network in a way to get customers, or you want to get peers? So there are very different networks that we are in. For example, for me, it's very important to also network in a way that, of course, I want to get clients. Of course, that's super important. But I need peers also. For a long time, I didn't have this network of a peer group, of a mastermind where I could just, I could just call them like, hey, look, I'm working for this client and I have really fucked up. Can you help me with that? Like, can you give me some feedback? And it's also really important because also they are the people who sometimes will refer you to other projects. And I think it's really important that it's not transactional. So it's not about like, okay, I give you this So I know exactly what is it that I expect in return, because you know what? You will feel it on people. You feel it. Your body senses a lot of things, and there is a lot of wisdom in our body, how we talk to people and how people talk to us. And I'm pretty sure that if I ask you, like, have you ever felt it from one person that who just wanted to sell you something? And did you feel something in your body? Maybe it was a little bit of this tingling feeling. I'm sure that there have been at least one occasion where you felt it, that something which was not authentic, that was coming out of that person, which doesn't mean that sometimes it doesn't work, but it's kind of like I would like to invite you to in a different way of networking. And multi-layered. So what it means is we have circles around us. So it doesn't mean that you need these 5 people around you who are the most successful, and then you will be successful. So it's not only about your close circle. It's also, you have people maybe who you talk to once a year. They are also part of your network. Or maybe there are people who live in the same blocks of flats. Or maybe there are people like in this Slack group on L&D Shakers. We are also in a network, and it doesn't mean that networking is only successful when you have very, very strong connections. It happens, of course, but just imagine like how nice it is that we have these kind of looser connections as well. And then that you can maybe just ask for a favor from a person. And when it comes to humanity, this is, just imagine, we are coming, I know it was a really long time ago, but still we are coming from tribal settings. Network was just the way of living. And as much as we are separated from each other today, and as much as, I hear it very often, and I also see research how we are feeling lonely, right? And we are, as much as connected we are very disconnected. So I would like to kind of like remove the shame around networking, because it's deeply human to ask for help and offer help. This is just natural. And somehow, if you are a little bit like me, that you like to give earlier than ask for help, then it will be difficult to ask for help in the beginning. But asking help is kindness. Asking help, if you ask for help, you also allow somebody else to feel good and to, help you. And then after a time, this will repeat itself. And then, once you are the one who is giving more, and then the other one is who is, once you are the giver, and then the receiver. So we are changing these roles. Okay, and how to do the networking. I also wanted to inspire you with one other thing. I don't know if any of you are in permaculture or learning about permaculture. Like after a time I'm working a lot in my mind, and whether it's about ideating or designing a workshop or speaking to people, or then being at a supervision or talking to clients or thinking about how to do marketing, what is it that I want to share from my work, a lot of things. And I just realized like I want to go out in nature. And I'm learning from a permaculture center in Hungary. Permaculture is a way of organizing nature around us. And it's amazing what they say. So they say that, for example, trees are also generally just connected to each other through the mycelium. And it's just very natural that they are sharing information, but also they are sharing nutrients. And I think this is the way how I also started to think of each other and ourselves, that we are also trees. We are connected. So that network is sometimes much more around us than they think. And it's more about like, how do we use it, and how do we really make sure that we are also in connection with the network. And one thing what they say in permaculture as a kind of like a guideline is, whenever you touch nature, give more than what you took. And I think it's just a beautiful kind of like a guideline to sometimes think of, that, if we give more than what we take, then I'm curious what kind of world we can also create. So how to do the networking. And then afterwards, I would love to ask a little bit about you. So number one, I'm sure that you have heard from Maya Angelou this quote that people remember the way you made them feel, and it's important that you show that you care. I think in the corporate world, if we are coming from the world, maybe this seems a little bit woo-woo at the first moment. But once you are also on the market and you see that you are connecting to people, so you are connecting to other HR leaders, you are going to connect to company owners, you will connect to innovation managers, you will connect to learning and development experts, and they are going to be your clients. It's important that they also see that you care, and it's not just selling quickly a project. As much as sometimes we can also be very nervous. Authenticity is I think it's just a super attractor. I really I really barely see, for example, even when we are just at a regular networking event, which is a conference, and then people show up authentically, they always find company because we are just gravitating towards these people. If you receive a no, so whether we speak of networking at an event or you receive a no when you reach out to somebody, and this also happened to me a couple of times, it's not the end, and it is uncomfortable for sure. But you can also, so my learning here is that even if they say no, go back to them after a time, check up with them. A no is not, it's not an eternal no. It's just no for a moment. And we are not desperately seeking job opportunities or project opportunities. But whenever you are at a conference or you are speaking to people, please just pay attention to your nervous system as well, and just tell it to yourself that you are looking for new possibilities and you are about to create something great, because your nervous system speaks louder than your words. And that's why for example, I will recommend you a book from James L. Tucker. It's called The Choose Yourself Guide to Wealth. And he doesn't speak too much about networking, just a little bit. I think there are like 3 pages. So what he says also is like, if you are calm at an event and you just take some big breaths, then you already did half of the work. Because even if you have a perfect speech, but your nervous system you are very afraid, then it's going to send not a good signal to the people you are talking to. All right. And first, trust, sorry, I'm also trying to stand. Yes, so it's the Choose Yourself Guide to Wealth. I will put it in the chat in a second. Many of us want to influence others, right? That's why we are here. I want to influence my clients. I want them to work with me. And what we forget often is that first the trust comes and then the influence, and it's not the other way around. And if you have worked with coaches or you are working in L&D, maybe this is also, it's not new to you. But what I have seen is that when we actually, we become our own company, right? Like right now, if those of you who are working at a company, you are representing them. So for example, you want to sell something, and it's somehow still easier to sell something because, I don't know, there is this structure provided by that company. But when then you are alone there out in the market and you are representing yourself or your company or your team, it will be absolutely different. And many people tell me, and I see a lot of my colleagues who are saying like, Judith, this is crazy. I am a marketing expert or I am a communications expert. And what I can do for a company where I work as an employee is like so much different when I'm doing it as a company myself or as a freelancer. It will be really different. But don't worry, you will learn it. It will be fine. Just that is really it's not this transition usually doesn't go as smooth as we think, because of course you have to kind of like go into yourself. And actually, I forgot to speak about after the humanity, the us, so the me, because I am in the networking, and a lot of times I am also in like I am one of the most important persons in my company, right? Because a lot of things are dependent on me. And what I have also realized is that the way I relate to people, the way I relate to sales, the way I relate to am I good enough, showed me a path, how many things are coming to my childhood. So it's again just an inspiration that don't be afraid to also go to work on your past a little bit, because social anxiety, all of these are somehow like rooted in our childhood and our experiences. And maybe it's also difficult to show up and talk in front of a lot of people at conference. And maybe because, I don't know, something happened to us at the age of 7. And what is wonderful, I think that all of these patterns are going to come up. And yes, so going back to networking. So again, I think I'm sure that you know all of these things, how important listening is. But when you are there and when you are, so responsibility once you are external, because you will have to do so many, you will also need to figure out the taxation, finances, website, I don't know, working hours. It's going to be different. You don't have those frames anymore. And just because of that, so the nature of that responsibility, I think sometimes what I have seen is that we tend to just, start to focus on, okay, this is what I do. This is what I want to sell. Let's just really focus on it. And we forget to listen. So please, just a little reminder. I know that you know it, but still listen to what people are talking about. Because sometimes you don't need to say first and pitch, but first, if you listen and you understand what their needs are, then afterwards you can also still come up with a pitch, or you can still email them. Meet your competitors. So when we come to being externals, as I said, of course, the client is the focus. But if you meet your competitors and you understand maybe how you can co-create something, or how they can also help you to shape your own offering, or they can refer you to another tax advisor, or you can send in a proposal, or you can answer to a tender, which is together. So I would really encourage you to maybe even befriend them. And as I said, like for me, one of the last year I was at a conference speaking in Germany, and that's amazing because that came through one of my competitors. She said like she doesn't want to go, and she's not very comfortable traveling. And originally, actually, that gig was for free. And what I just did, I asked them like, okay, I really like the topic. And then for me, in the end, they paid even. So it was super. Have a clear message. I will give you some tools for that. And if you talk to clients, I think this is like, in order for you also to gain trust and credibility, I think it's great if you can also, by knowing your competitors and by being very specific, what is it that you do and what is it that you don't do, that sometimes when there are solutions, you can also direct them to a different source, which can be, even you can direct them to a source, which is a book. Ideally, it's people. Okay, let's stop for a second and tell me a little bit in the chat. So I don't see anything about what topics or what services are you thinking about to offer? Or it's very vague maybe at this point, which is also, it's okay. So I think we learn this by doing. And it's unfortunately, it's not going to happen that first you think about it and you make a strategy. I mean, partly yes, because the direction you can give, but it's going to be a lot in the field work. Or maybe you are not comfortable with sharing, it's also okay. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm waiting. Collective capability and performance across groups, communities, and organizations and collaborations, either contract or fractional. Amazing. Coaching skills for educators. Oh, nice. So while these answers are coming in, I'm just thinking leadership development for contact center managers. Have companies build their L&D in-house before they hire a full-time L&D person. Okay, wow, interesting. Science-based well-being training for sustainable high performance, building digital learning hubs, learning through play and radical reflection to tackle business problems, customized workshops and trainings on dialogue, mediation, and creativity and innovation. Wow, all of them are really interesting. And I'm just thinking maybe this helps you. So there are 4 types of roles which we can take in networks. So traditionally, it's like, yeah, somehow I think what happens is like there are people who speak or who organize something, and then people who are participating. But there are many more. So for example, right now you are consumers. And thank you for being here because you're also helping me to talk about this subject and like further make some research and open this, and this helps me a lot as well. So thanks for being here. And already by being a consumer, you are also doing something active. Please remember that. But what else can you do? For example, you can be a contributor. So for example, in the L&D Shakers, I am not sure if all of you are in the community or the Slack, but as a contributor, there are also these monthly socials where you can also connect with people and you can maybe talk about what is it that you could contribute. Sejaal is also contributing. I'm also contributing right now in a way that I actually had a call with Anna Maria in July last year, and that was the first session of this program. So we organized a career bootcamp, and now this is the upgraded version of that. So I became a contributor along with Grace, and we were hosting a 1-month bootcamp. And it was amazing because I got to know a lot of people, and I also learned a lot. And I even learned more about how to organize events and how to communicate to people. So you could contribute something. You could connect people. So sometimes there are people who are super connectors. I don't know if you heard this term. It's good. So either you become one, or you could also find somebody. So for example, I'm just trying to think. I'm just thinking like how many people I could connect you to, because all of these topics are somehow also my topics, and it's funny, right? Like how art is also. I think I believe in this, that similar people attract each other, and yes, and so many of your topics are, for example, I'm reading now the stress. They are really relevant. So if you wanted to create something or to be a contributor, I would think about asking yourself, like, what is it that you could do in the L&D Shakers community? Because even last year, I answered that question. So even last year, we had, okay, I forgot what I wanted to say. I'm sorry, because I'm reading the chat, you see. So would you have any advice in how to deal with how overwhelming networking can be? I feel that there are endless opportunities for networking and connection, and it's hard to prioritize. Yes, so it's not endless.
I'm sorry you did to interrupt, but it's okay if we can take the question in the end. I will note down all the question, and if we have time, I will let you know all the question, and we can answer one by one, so you will not lose your track of thoughts.
Okay, I think I will just finish this because I think it connects to this. So yeah, like it can be really overwhelming. You're right, and I think you shouldn't push yourself. But it's actually, it has an end, so it's not endless, because Have you heard about these 6 degrees of separation? So what they said for the United States, that you need 6 people, and through 6 people, everybody could reach each other. If everybody shaked hands with 30 people, we would just reach everybody. So what I want you to think about this, that yes, it's not endless. There should be a kind of like a circle around it. Otherwise, your energy would just run out. Back to this in a second. So what is it that you can also do when you are networking? So one of my friends used to be a dance teacher and an amazing choreographer. When he was in his 50s, he felt like he was very burnt out. He didn't want to give any more classes. And he started to do photography. And you know what he did? In 2 years, he made it his full-time job. He created his own company, and that was his 100% income source. So I asked him, how did you do that? And he just said, like, you need to educate your network. You need to educate people about what you do. So before going out there, make sure that everybody knows. And, you know, sometimes also it will be like, hey, I'm interested in stress. Hey, I'm really interested in, you know, how can we help educators use coaching techniques? Maybe just start to talk about this with your network. Tell it to the people who you already know. Maybe ask some questions. So that's one thing. And for me, it also arrived back in a way that I was working with, until 2019, I was working with mainly companies. And then I took a break because I wanted to start a project on career coaching for teenagers, which I'm also still doing now. And I was just telling it to one of the companies I was working with, that I want to work with teenagers. I really feel like there is a calling for me. And 2 months later, she called me, Judith, there is a project. You need to do a pitch training for 100 teenagers. Are you in? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, of course. And, you know, this was just about educating my network about what I do. And it's okay to sometimes change direction. And as I said, like, for me, it looks like sometimes I have more art projects, sometimes I have more facilitation and more coaching. Just make sure to speak to your network about it. And maybe you also just post about it. You can also introduce people to each other. So I'm sure if we had more time here, we could also help each other introduce people. I will show you one tool which I use in Excel, because I think that was a mistake from me, what I didn't do for a long time. I didn't track my network. And whenever you know, it's like you collect email addresses, but it's also good that you know people's stories a little bit. So I started to do an Excel, and it's much easier now, for example, when I organize an event or a training, that I know who to invite, and it's so quick. It helps me a lot. Show up, that's something what you are already doing. You can also interview people. So for example, what I have done when I wanted to work more in leadership, and well, so I thought I don't have anything to do with leadership, and I was, you know, afraid, like, oh my God, how do I present myself as an expert? So I was doing a lot of interviews with people. What does leadership mean? And I just asked questions. And from one of these interviews, a really big project came, which lasted for like a month. So when you are curious and when you're asking the genuine questions and you show that you really, like, you know, you want to be an expert in this, it will work. Know your value. So maybe what I will show you will help you in this. So what is the value that you could provide? And just also one part of it is just trust yourself and make the mistakes. And okay, this is just something very quick. I put it in because we were talking about the pitch. So again, it's from the same book, but I'm sure that you will find a lot of frameworks how to pitch. I don't have one recipe which I could give you. I think this is just a nice framework to start trying to speak in a way that what is the urgency of the thing that you are talking about? Why is it important? How is your offering unique? How is it useful? How can you make it ultra specific? Because often when I hear people talking about their services or what is it that they do, especially when we are externals, it's not specific enough. I don't understand the details, but it's important that you provide the details as well so that it's easier for the other person to understand. It's user friendly, so it's it's based in the same country, or I don't know, it can be used online, and that you have unquestionable proof as well. So what I would like to inspire you to do after this is sit down and draw these circles and think about like who are in your inner circle and who are in the outer layers of the circle. And maybe who are the people who are not in your circles yet, but you would like to get to know too. And firstly, just speak to the people who you already know. You don't need to immediately reach out. And maybe you can also just share this challenge like, hey, I want to transition. Can you help me? Hey, I want to get more clients. What do you think? Could we just have a conversation? And of course, you can always reach out to new people, but just like what I see as a trend is that we first go out inside of already kind of like, using our own network. And I'm going to put to the chat an Excel, which you can copy. And this is something what I use for networking tracking. So I have a general information and I just said, so this is something, if you collect it, it will help you to think quicker when it comes to reaching out of people, but also how to, you can also like, when to follow up. Please also follow up with people, I don't know, every 6 months or every 1 year. You can also put it in your calendar that just to reach out to them and ask for a coffee and put their contact information and everything else. And another thing is also for you to kind of digest at home is that, yeah, just try to think about like, how can you contribute to other people already? Because I'm sure that you have a lot, even if it's a question or even if it's something that is an expertise already. And if you spend a little bit of time of like, what is it that, for example, you would love to learn in these next 2 months, and you try to identify 1 or 2 or 3 people to that, then already it's not something which is endless, but you already narrowed down a little bit your options. And I think we will have now some time for some questions. And I also will put in the chat. So this is 2 books I would recommend to you. And yes, I will also put to the chat the Excel. And let's open now this conversation for the time being.